I have to do I need to set up an actual yeah, I've been gone. Yeah, I like that.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Excellent. I like that.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of EECS 494. It is good to see you. It is usually not a super big crowd here in person. I know quite a few people watch online, on Twitch, and on the recording afterwards. But I'm super excited because on Wednesday, we're going to have all of you here in this room. We're going to have our first playtest of the semester, okay? I hope your Project 2, your Gold Spike, is going well. And on Wednesday, we're all going to get to see, okay? And you're going to get to see a bunch of feedback as well. So real quick, what is happening on Wednesday? Well, you are doing a playtest. You're going to be in here. This is a really great space for playtesting. There's a lot of desk space. There are a lot of machines that you can use in here. Download your project, get running on these nice big monitors. But on Wednesday, you're going to need to bring a working version of your game, okay? You're going to want to bring probably a laptop. You don't know if all these machines will be taken. We're probably going to have about 60 people in this room. So bring a laptop, try and make sure it's charged. There are charge ports around the room, but in case you can't get near one, you'll be fine. If you need a controller, please bring one. Okay, and if you want to check out a controller from the course, you can do that after class. Just come find me, and we'll get one checked out to you. In general, we'll talk more about playtesting and how to do it really well later in the course. But you're kind of looking at things like this, okay? So this is OhioCon 2023. This is something you'll see a lot of indie devs doing, taking their games around to different events like this. The more stations that you can get set up, the more people can be playing your game at once, the higher your throughput, the more data you're going to receive, the better feedback you're going to get, and the more people will get to learn about and potentially wishlist your game. On Wednesday, right, it's not a huge concern, but when you get to Project 3, you're going to be playtesting every single week, okay? And so it's going to be really important that you get as much data from those playtests as possible. We'll talk more about how to do that and how to play test without letting biases kind of creep in, okay, a little bit later in the course. But that's what you're going to do, okay? We're going to see you here on Wednesday. Your attendance will not be excused unless you have a very good reason, and you'll need to email us ahead of time. Missing an event like this, a play test, is going to cost you probably about 20 points, okay? So we really do want you to be at these sessions, and hopefully you'll get quite a bit out of them. One of the best things about making games is watching other people play them. And it's easy to kind of forget about that when you're in the midst of Project 1. And the only people who are really playing your project are you, your teammates, and the graders and course staff. But we make games so that other people can have a certain interesting experience. And so you're going to get to see on Wednesday what kind of experience other people have of your little P2 prototype. Okay? So does anyone have any questions on that Wednesday playtest coming up? Okay, it's going to be really good to see a full room. So we'll see how that goes. Okay, if you look at the schedule right now, it is a pretty busy time. Spring break is fortunately coming up. It's coming up very soon at the end of P2, so look forward to that. But you are in the middle of P2 Gold Spike. Remember, that's going to be graded in a kind of a very convenient way for you. You are only going to have to worry about, do I have a completed game loop? And do I have my most important mechanic or bit of technology in the game in a substantial way? Okay? You do those things, you're going to get full credit. That doesn't mean you're going to get full credit on this P2 Gold coming up. On P2 Gold, you will need to have excellent guidance. You'll need to have interesting decisions. You'll need to have novelty and some juice as well. We're going to talk a bit about juice today, and we're going to talk a lot more about it next week. Okay? But you're also working on P2 research. Don't forget about that. And P2 project management. Make sure you've got a JIRA going at least by now. Okay, if you don't have one, get that going at least by tonight. Today, P1 Postmortem was finished. I hope that was kind of a cathartic assignment to do. This act of looking back is a super important part of the creative process, not just when you are developing games, but for life in general. When you go and put a lot of effort or investment or time or money or whatever into something, make sure you look back on it and you really give yourself some time to reflect. Was this a good spend of my resources? Is this something I should do again? Could I do it again but tweak some things to make it work better? Okay? That, in the context of your P1 and P2, it's going to help your P3 go much better. Okay? So, yeah, I hope that was an enjoyable assignment for you, and because you've got 2 more to do. One for P2, and then you're going to have another one for Project 3, okay? So lots of reflection. Do it as often as you can. All right, so some quick inspiration for you, all right? Sometimes in your career, you're going to do things, right, that have a regrettable outcome. You're going to work on projects that are kind of stinkers, okay? Has anyone heard of a game called Hotel Mario? Yeah, I wouldn't blame you if you hadn't heard of this game. It's not a game Nintendo would tell you about, okay? But it is an official game. It was made for the infamous Philips CDI console, and it's probably one of the worst Mario games ever made. It was not made by Nintendo. In the 3D kind of CD-ROM era, DVD disc era for video games, Nintendo partnered up with another Japanese company named Sony, and they were going to make a game console together. It was going to be called the Nintendo PlayStation, and it was unfortunately not fated to be, because at the last second Nintendo betrayed Sony and went with Sony's rival, a company called Philips. Philips created a console called CDI. It was a complete disaster. And as a part of this, Philips got the rights to make Mario and Legend of Zelda games. And they did. They definitely did, okay? But they didn't go so well. You can probably tell by this image right here what kind of game this is. And let's take a quick look. I've never played this game. Does that seem like the intro for a game studio to you? Fantasy Factory.
Nice of the princess to invite us to cook for a big day, Luigi. I hope you had lots of spaghetti.
Okay, so this is off to a pretty bad start already, okay? Imagine being a huge fan of the Mario series and Nintendo, and you start playing this very obviously low-budget game. All right, this is a kind of more of a puzzle game than a traditional Mario game. I don't really understand what you're doing in this game. Again, I haven't really played it, but it's clearly a puzzle game. And maybe the gameplay is okay-ish. It kind of looks low poly or low frame rate. It doesn't look especially fun to me. It doesn't look especially good, even compared to the previous generation games on the Super Nintendo. It does have these FMV cutscenes, right, which is what the disc on the CDI gives you, but they don't look especially good either. Okay, all I'm saying here is that this is one of the worst Mario games ever made. And the reason I bring this up is because the art director for Hotel Mario, who I suppose you could say did not do an amazing job on that game, Jeff Zorn, was lead technical artist, the art director for Hotel Mario. He later in his career became the lead character artist for Luigi's Mansion 3. Okay, so how does Luigi's Mansion 3 look? Okay, how's the Metacritic? Luigi's Mansion 3. So Jeff Zern gets another opportunity to work on the Mario series and knocks it out of the park. Luigi's Mansion 3 is a beautiful game. And a widely celebrated game. A game that has a fantastic art style, a game that looks very technically sound, and it is another game set in a darn hotel. Okay, so if this is the follow-up to Hotel Mario, I'd say that they did a much better job this time. But in any case, this is to say that sometimes you're going to take lumps in your life and in your career and in your studies in academia, in your romantic life, whatever. But that doesn't have to be the end of the story. And if you continue to iterate, okay, and not let yesterday get you down, right? You learn from yesterday. You try not to let it weigh you down, though. You can still get to amazing places, okay? And in general, focusing on tomorrow and what can be can really, really help you out in life, okay? At least it helps me out a lot mentally, especially when I'm having a tough day, okay? So keep that in mind, all right? No matter how bad your day is going, you probably didn't just release Hotel Mario, okay? The absolute stinker of a beloved series. And even if you did release Hotel Mario today, you might release Luigi's Mansion 3 in the future, okay? So hopefully that will cheer you up. Okay, yes, a reminder, playtesting sessions are not optional. If you have something you absolutely must miss it for, then you must email us right away. And we're not going to be super lenient with the exceptions that we give, okay? Among Us. Have you ever heard of it? Small indie game, okay? This is a game that flopped until it didn't, all right? During the pandemic especially, it kind of took over the world and became one of the most popular games of that era and did exceptionally well for its tiny development team. It was a game that initially flopped, and this is a cool little documentary on it that goes over some of those details, right?
Popularity right now. If you've been on YouTube in the past 2 weeks, you've probably seen thumbnails with this little jelly bean-shaped character all over the place. I know I have. This game seemed to come out of nowhere instantly, so it piqued my interest. How popular is this game? And most importantly, what kind of money is this game making?
So I'll kind of give you a paraphrase, a brief summary of the video. But Among Us initially launched by a company that had done some other small games and products, but this really wasn't their big thing. They made this game, they released it, and it didn't do super well. It's also a server-based game with online multiplayer, and so it costs them money to keep this game alive, okay? They might shut it down if they decide that not enough people are playing it. And they decided not to shut it down because the people who played it, not very many people did, but those who did play it really seemed to like it. And when this game blew up, it didn't blow up in the USA, right, locally, as you might expect. It actually got very famous where first? You know where it exploded first? In Brazil, okay? So it became very popular among Brazilian YouTubers and YouTubing personalities and Twitch personalities. And from there, it kind of spread to other parts of the globe to such an extent that the multiplayer backend team was having a huge problem scaling the multiplayer technology and servers up. Okay, I can't remember if it was in this video or an interview I read, but there was a period of like a week straight where the backend and multiplayer team pretty much didn't sleep. Okay, and if you think, wow, that sounds really bad, you wouldn't sleep either if you were saying, oh, I'm either going to be a multimillionaire this time next week, or I'm going to be nothing, and my game's going to be dead this time next week. Okay, that's a really strong motivator, it turns out, and you'd probably be fine as well. But in any case, this is a reminder that sometimes when you make a game or an experience, it might not take off. Another example is Roblox, which is now a several billion-dollar company that has hired a bunch of our students, actually. Quite a few Wolverines work there. In fact, I think it's our #1 employer for people coming out of my classes. But in any case, Roblox was very tiny for quite a while, and it kind of took a while to find its audience and then slowly build its way up. This is all to say, if you make something, give it a chance if you can, okay? Because you never know what might catch the public's attention or what might find its audience eventually, okay? All right. Unity, thus far, we have used it for prototypes, okay? We've used it to recreate a 1980s era game, okay? Legend of Zelda or Metroid. And this week, most of you are using it to create smallish 2D and 3D games with very simple aesthetics, okay? So the question is, could you make a AAA, gorgeous-looking, photorealistic game, okay, with Unity if you had enough budget? Typically, you would say, I'm going to use Unreal Engine for that kind of thing. Or if I have enough budget, I might hire my own proprietary engine to be made, okay? But as it turns out, you can absolutely make gorgeous experiences with Unity, okay? And I want to show this to you. Is this a photograph? Right? Is this a photograph? Because if you pause right now, it kind of looks like it, right? But no, this is a Unity game. And we're walking around, and we've got just fantastic lighting. I love looking down here. I think they'll do some more, but you've got this little bit of a rain, okay, in the tile, and you can kind of tell that it's not physically simulated, right? Because you've got a little bit of clipping happening. For instance, the little waves that come here, right? You can see these waves go through the block and go out the other side. That's not how little waves work, okay? But it still looks incredible, absolutely incredible. So if you coax it enough, you can get Unity to do absolutely incredible things from a rendering perspective, okay? But the difference between an engine like Unreal and Unity is that Unreal will give you a lot of this graphical fidelity by default, okay? With Unity, you have to work pretty hard to get this level of aesthetic quality. And in Unreal Engine, sometimes when I go from working a ton in Unity and then step into Unreal a little bit, sometimes for EECS 440 stuff, I'm shocked by just how gorgeous everything looks immediately, okay? Makes me wonder if I'm using the right engine. Unity is really great because it's a little bit more elegant. It has that nice textual programming experience with C#, and it's just very good for prototyping, very fast. So anyway, okay, and all right, I think that's all I want to show you right now in terms of announcements. Does anyone have any questions or comments on any of that stuff? Cool. If you are interested in exploring other game engines, again, The EECS 498 Upper Level CS Game Engine Architecture course gives you several weeks to do that at the start. Okay, we don't immediately launch into making our own engine from scratch. We do explore a bunch of engines that are already out there and do some cool things with them. Okay, so as far as game design goes, there are a lot of things that go into it, right? You've got interesting decisions and player guidance as two major topics. For minor topics, we have things like feedback loops, if you remember that lecture, okay? Positive and negative feedback loops and how they can kind of blow up your game design if they sneak into your project without you knowing, okay? But they can also be a powerful tool. One thing I'd like to emphasize with you is that when it comes to creating games that really work, that they're very accessible, but they're also very deep, you want to avoid the philosophy of just adding more, okay? Oh, the game isn't very fun, so let's add some more things in. More things, okay? Now let's add power-ups, okay? Power-ups is usually the first horseman of the game design apocalypse when power-ups get introduced. That is a sign that a game is not fun, and the way we're going to solve this is by throwing more things into the pot. And that's almost never how you do it, okay? I want to show you a couple experiences that are absolutely fantastic at following a useful game design philosophy, okay? The idea that we want depth, we do not want complexity, okay? These are different things. Complexity is the cost that we pay whenever we add something new to our game, all right? The depth is something we get as far as having a small amount of mechanics that are very deep, okay, that are nuanced and have many different things they can be used for. Has anyone ever seen this game called Super Mario Odyssey? This is a game that is actually somewhat shocking in its control scheme, all right? This is a game in which you can run around and with the joystick, you can jump with one button and you can throw your cap with another. And that's, for the most part, that's kind of it, okay? That is the extent of the control scheme. There are a couple other things you can do, but not a ton. And in this game, there are so many different things you can do with this hat. How many of you have played it? How many of you have seen it or played it? Okay, so watch this gameplay footage, and the first thing you're going to see here is Mario throws his cap onto this electrical pole. He becomes a piece of electricity and can kind of travel along the wire. So watch how many different things you can do with this cap. So you can see a few things here, right? For one, you can throw your hat on top of many different objects and you can use them. What you see right here is that you can actually throw your hat out and you can hold it there, suspend it in midair. You can actually use it as a platform, a makeshift platform for more horizontal movement. You also saw the hat being used a few times to break objects. You saw the hat used to collect things. Same exact way as the Legend of Zelda Boomerang can collect things, okay, and bring them back to you. There are a couple other things the hat can do that you don't see here. But the main idea here is that with just a couple buttons, you get so many different uses for your game's mechanics. This game has jumping and it has the hat. Not a lot else. Look at this one. You fling yourself, right? But you can do so many interesting things and so many nuanced and subtle things with the hat that this is a game that is very easy to learn but very hard to master, okay? And that is the Nintendo style. That's what they're famous for, okay? A lot of very, very hardcore gamers play Nintendo games and enjoy them a great deal. I'm going to prove that to you in just a second. But a lot of people also get into Nintendo games, and they don't play games very often, right? They're a bit new to gaming, right? And they have a fantastic, fantastic time. And so this is a game design philosophy that allows you to get much more with less, okay? Do more with less. Try and have fewer mechanics, fewer inputs on that confusing controller. How many, by the way, how many buttons is on a modern controller? If I ask you this, have I asked you this in the past? Oh, goodness. Okay, Xbox 360 controller. Okay, look at this controller right now. And I want you to tell me how many buttons, oh goodness, how many buttons, individual buttons and control devices are on this controller? Roughly.
11-ish.
11-ish? I remember counting it up, and it was about 20. Okay? Did you know, how many of you knew that this stick right here, you can click it? Okay? Very few people realize that. Okay? You can click this stick. There are 4 different buttons here. There are 3 different buttons here. 4 here. 2 bumpers. 2 triggers on the back. Okay? If you ever try and teach someone to play video games for the first time, and you hand them a controller like this, right? You're basically DDoSing them right then and there. They don't know what they're looking at, okay? There's so many buttons here. They're very confusing. They have different colors. They have different shapes, okay? It's very difficult to deal with, all right? Now, you may have been playing games for a while, so you know that this button right here, this blue button, if it's a platforming game, then it's going to be the jump button, okay? If it's a puzzle game, it's going to be the confirm or select button, okay? You, having played games for a while, have built up standards in your head, okay, and associated those with various genres. So you may not have played a game before ever, but you can see what kind of game it is, and you already have a strong mapping of what the controls and inputs will be, okay? If you're new to games or don't play them that often, you just don't have that, okay? And it's really, really difficult. I spent a summer trying to teach my grandmother, right, in her 90s, how to play video games. And it was just very difficult, okay? You notice that new game players are constantly doing this. Why? It's because their hands cannot find things on the controller just by themselves, but via a sense of touch, okay? They have to go back and forth all the time to connect things that are happening on the TV to things that happened on their with their hands, okay? Anyway, I bring this all up because it really is important to try and keep your mechanics fewer in number, okay, but find more things to do with those mechanics, okay? And that also makes your programming life easier because fewer mechanics means less work, all right? Now, one of the best indicators that you have a deep, okay, but accessible, rich game design, what we're looking for, is that the gameplay of a beginner will be dramatically different from the gameplay of an expert, okay? Here, you see a player kind of slowly walking around, right, talking to people, not moving super fast, okay, kind of feeling their way around. They mess some things up, some jumps they mess up, some hat throws they mess up. They're not using everything they could. I want to show you, this is what a beginner looks like. I want to show you what an expert in this game looks like. Let's take a look, okay? I think you'll notice the difference. Yeah, I played this game all the way through, and I'm not even close to this, okay? So, you hopefully get what I'm saying. Now, I want to show you a second game that kind of explores this topic. I want to show you another game that has only one mechanic, and you know what? I'll do you one better. This game has no buttons. The only thing you use is the mouse, and you don't even click any mouse buttons in the game once you get past the menus. Okay. Who would like to play this game? Anyone? All right, come on up. Have you played this game before?
I don't think so.
You think so? Okay.
No, I haven't seen before.
You have?
I've never heard of it. I'll beat it.
Okay. I'd like someone who hasn't played it to try the game. Okay. Who hasn't played Getting Over It? Raise your hand. Yeah, you're all alive. Okay, come on up. Don't worry, it's okay. It's not that hard. We can take all the time we need. Okay, all you have to do is move your mouse. Good luck.
Oh, where's this one?
There's no feeling more intense than starting over. If you leave your homework the day before it was due, as I had, or if you've got wallet at home and you have to go back after spending an hour in the commute. If you won some money at the casino and then put all your winnings on red but it came up black. If you got your best shirt right before a wedding and then immediately dropped through. If you want to argue with a friend and then later discovered that they just returned their original view. Starting over is harder than starting up. If you're not ready for that, like if you've already had a bad day, then what you're about to go through might be too much. Feel free to go away and come back. I'll be here.
Swing yourself around. Almost so close. Slow. Yep. Okay, slow. Yep. Okay. Try the camera on the top of the tree.
Oh.
Nice. All right. Well done.
All right. Thanks for coming with me on this trip. I understand if you have to take a break anyway. Just find a safe place to stop and quit the game. Don't worry, I'll save your progress always, even your mistakes. This game is a homage to a free game that came out in 2002 titled Sexy Hiking. The author of that game was Jazor, a mysterious check designer who was known at the time as the father of B games. B games are rough assemblages of found objects. Designers slap them together very quickly and freely, and they're often too rough and unfriendly to gain much of a following. They're built more for the joy of building them than as polished products.
Okay, well done. Good job. So it's this is a famously frustrating game, but you made it farther than most students do, actually. So well done. Very good. I can't make it much farther than this, personally. So this game seems to be almost contradictory, right? How can this exist? It's a paradox. Here we have a game that is so simple in its input method. It's so easy to get started, and it's easy to do the basic things. But very quickly it reveals itself to have a lot of hidden depth, okay? In its control scheme and its physics, but also in puzzles and stuff like this, right? Okay, and yeah, we've spent enough time on this. I should not keep playing it. Anyway, right, so it's extremely easy to get into, but it's very difficult to master and become an expert at. This made the game famous among people, YouTubers, Twitch streamers, people who had never played the game before. Their audiences wanted them to play it. And as a result, it became a very, very, very well-known game, and it's extremely successful, okay? Ultra successful, you might say. Well, right, you've seen some beginner gameplay footage from two people up here, right? Now I want to show you what an expert at this game looks like. So I think this is the world record holder for getting over it. Let's take a look. You get the golden pot if you complete the game like 20 times.
On the level, I did not expect that. Maybe he doesn't just like lately on.
All right. So as we said earlier, one of the telltale signs of a game that is very accessible and approachable but extremely deep is that the beginner gameplay footage looks a lot different from the expert gameplay footage. And you can see here, when you have gotten a good feel for the game, your ability to deal with the controls, your ability to manipulate your own momentum and movement is just a different world, right? And so you have the best of both worlds. A game that is kind of a bit simpler than it would otherwise be to program, easier to get into, but there's so much there for people who really want to explore, okay? This is what you are trying to accomplish, and you will get a good feel for whether you've done this or not on P2 if you end up with a game that is pretty simple to explain and get into, not a lot of tutorials or guidance needed, not a ton to program, but just tons of good content that teaches the players new subtleties and nuances, okay? That's what you're looking for. When P3 begins, I'm going to show you some of our best ever P3 494 projects to give you a feel for what a really good P3 looks like. And one of the common themes among all of them will be that the game usually only has one or two main mechanics, but they are incredible. They feel great to control, and wielding those mechanics reveals a ton of different interesting things you can do with them, okay? Thus, it's very ironic, and I'll remind you of this again, but the best Project 3 productions, all P3 teams have 6 to 7 weeks to complete their game. but the best P3s are finished after the second week. The core of their game is in. And now the team just needs to create some more content, explore it a bit better, polish a couple things up. That's it. That's it, okay? But that's what it allows you to do when you have got a very strong identity to your game. You've got just a small number of mechanics, but they work extremely well together, and they generate tons of interesting decisions and things to think about, okay? So that is your mission. If you ever find yourself just adding more things in, it's not fun. I need to add something, okay? It would be so good if I just added power-ups, right? No, usually that's not the right answer, okay? And it just makes your life much harder because everything you add has to be programmed and bug fixed and polished up. So things get very expensive very fast. Today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to introduce you to some tools and technologies that we didn't really have a lot of time to cover on Project 1. Project 1, you are replicating some very kind of simple 1980s 2D games. And so we don't have much reason to care about 3D lighting in Unity or about a technology called ProBuilder. Has anyone heard of ProBuilder? Has anyone heard of Blender? Okay. A reminder, this is my good chance to shill my upcoming course, okay? Right? This is the course that you could take next semester where you get really good at Blender, okay? Suddenly all of your projects look super great and it's a good time, okay? Your portfolio is better, might be easier to get a job. But ProBuilder is a miniature Blender. Okay, it allows you to suddenly have much better control over your in-game objects, environments, even characters. You can model them all within Blender, okay, within Unity, okay? So I'm going to show you that today, and then we'll get introduced to the concept of juice, and then we'll call it, okay? So what I'd like to do is I'd like to show you a project that may be familiar to you, okay? Do you remember Secret Snail? From, I think, the second or third lecture when we talked about the topic of raycasting, right? Let's see here. Okay. Okay, so we have Secret Snail here, and we're infiltrating this cool facility, this high-tech laboratory. And the kind of cubic nature of the environment gives you that kind of sterile feeling, okay? It has kind of a corporate feel to it, maybe, a facility feel to it, these sharp edges, okay? This kind of refined geometry. But you know what? What if I don't want this? What if I want my infiltration to begin in a cave? Let's say that I've got my Secret Snail here, and Secret Snail is going to kind of enter into the facilities through a cave entrance and then navigate the cave and then enter the polished facility hidden in the depths of the volcano cave, right? Pretty cool idea. It's got kind of a spy theme to it. All right, how would we do this? Well, let's talk first about the lighting, okay? In this scene, we have a bunch of lights, and I can show you kind of what it looks like by doing this, okay? The scene is kind of dark, but we have these lights around, and if I get rid of the lights, everything gets a bit darker. Have any of you decided to do a P2 based on lights or lighting? Does light come in as a mechanic? Sometimes using and manipulating light and what the player can see is a really powerful thing in your game design, okay? How many of you remember when we talked about poker? A big element of poker and why it's popular and why it succeeds as a game design is that you can't know everything that's happening in the game, okay? You can guess at what everyone else has in their hand and what's going to come up, but it's a game of imperfect information. And this lighting is a way of providing you that as well. If I get rid of all these lights, right, we are creating a game of imperfect information. Suddenly, we have to be much more careful as we move around this environment, all right? And so, here's something that I recommend to you. If you ever are dealing with lighting, what you should do is you should get rid of the lights in your scene. Get rid of all of them and try and achieve pitch darkness, okay? pitch darkness, and then we're going to build our lighting back up. By the way, do you see the way my UI is right now? It's kind of weird, isn't it? Okay, I've got my hierarchy up here in the top right and the inspectors in the bottom right. On the left, I've got nothing. Have you ever seen something like this before? Anyone in here take EECS 440? This is the Unreal Engine UI. Okay, and the reason it's like this is because I was demonstrating how similar the engines are to my EECS 440 students, because they're going to transition over to Unity for a Pokemon Go clone project soon. Okay? Anyway, when you're dealing with lighting, you always want to eliminate all of your lights. So you type light in here, good. All the lighting is gone. We should now have a pitch black game. All right? But if you do not, right, if you have some ambient lighting, which I think by default you will have, you need to go into Window, Rendering, Lighting, okay? And then you probably need to go into this Environment tab, where you can kind of get rid of some of the ambient sources of light, okay? Which might bring things in and kind of ruin your scene a little bit, okay? So if you see values in here, tweak them until you get pitch darkness. Now that you've achieved pitch darkness, we can actually start bringing in lights to recreate our feel, okay? So we can go into light, we can go to point light, okay? Point lights, you can kind of see how they work here. They kind of, basically, they model what a light bulb would do. A light bulb kind of sends the lighting in all directions and is good for things like flame flickers, okay, stuff like that. But they are a little bit computationally expensive as far as lights go, okay? Sometimes you want a nice light like this to light up a room or something like that, a chandelier. But something that can be very valuable as well is having a spotlight, okay? A spotlight is a bit more focused. It only goes in one direction. And you can take this angle, right? Whenever I see this, I kind of get the theater vibe. Anyone else get that? So a spotlight, you've got an actor or some object that you want to emphasize. I'm going to make the spot angle a bit wider. I'm going to go and put this over my character maybe, okay? Just to frame my cool character. I can go in, I can change the range, okay? I can change the energy with which this light, oh my goodness, look at this. That looks nasty, okay? Too much energy. But I can tweak my lighting, I can do whatever I want. This is especially effective if you want to guide people to certain objects or locations. Remember the Left 4 Dead example from the guidance lecture. Okay, if you've got a dark environment, any source of light will just pull players around. They will go to the light. Okay, you can adjust the color of the light. Okay, for instance, now we've got like, oh, secret snail's been detected, and we're now the alarms are going off. The guards are going to swarm us, so we got to get out of here. Right. So that could be a really cool mechanic. What other types of light do we have? Often, you'll want to have a light that just kind of subtly blankets the entire area, okay? Maybe you don't want pitch blackness, even in areas where you can't normally see, right? So over here, we can't see a whole lot. The directional light is really good for just kind of giving a little bit of lighting everywhere, or giving a tint. So for instance, if this were outside somehow, we could go and give this directional light kind of a bluish tint, maybe. Okay, now it feels like we're actually outdoors, or if there's a full moon out, we can give it kind of a yellowish or greenish tint or an orangish tint. Okay, to kind of make it feel like we might be outside. There might be a nice yellow full moon above us, right? So there's lots of things we can do. If you're not getting shadows for your lights, like for example, I don't think this spotlight is casting a shadow. You have to go in, you have to turn on shadows, okay? So don't forget about that. Turning on shadows can immediately make your game look dramatically better. But it can be expensive, okay? So if you notice your game lagging, shadows on too many objects or too many dynamic lights might be a problem, okay? These shadows will move as I move around, okay? And that's really computationally expensive to make this look good and work in real time, okay? And so you want to be a little bit careful about that stuff. Okay, So what I'd like to do here, I'm going to turn off my lighting. What I would like to do, actually, do you see this back here? Why is it dark like this? Anyone know? This actually isn't lighting. This is something else. It's called fog. Okay? If you look at old school games, let's go Silent Hill PS1. Let's try this. Old games are famous for having fog. All right, and one reason they did this was for ambiance, right? If you're outside and you've got this beautiful fog in the background, then you've got a really cool atmosphere, a very mysterious atmosphere. It can be good for dramatic games filled with tension, exploration games. But there's another reason that games like this, especially older games, often had fog. Why? That's exactly right, okay? If we have fog in our game's universe, then we have a convenient thematic excuse to not bother rendering things that are too far away from the camera, okay? And so this fog does a really good job of allowing us to only render a few objects nearby us, and everything beyond the fog's wall is totally it's not rendered. It's not needed, okay? If you want fog, you can get it. Okay, this is something actually that I'm going to turn up. Let's say that it's kind of a bright day, actually, and we are, in fact, outside. Okay, maybe this is like a cool interior volcano. How do I make this feel more outside? This black background is a bit of a problem, okay? Things outside usually aren't jet black like this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to change our background color, okay, like this maybe. Maybe I'll make it a little bit green, maybe to suggest like there's some grass down here or something, okay? But now, how do I make all of this feel a bit better lit? Well, one thing I can do is let's go into Window, let's go to Rendering Lighting, and I think in the bottom of the Environment tab, there is a section for fog. You can turn fog on. If you look, currently we have a dark fog, which is great for indoor, kind of darkly lit environments. But I can turn that off or I can turn it on and I can choose a white fog instead, okay? Now this actually looks hideous. I don't like this at all. The problem is the white fog clashes with the green background that the camera's rendering. So let's go ahead and change this to white as well, and now this looks incredible. Isn't this awesome? I'll go ahead and launch in full screen so you can see the full effect. Oh, super cool, isn't it? So now I'm kind of wandering through the cityscape, maybe, and I'm high up in the air, and there's the clouds rolling in, okay? But this is actually a building. Maybe if I put on some ambient audio that's like car noises, honks, okay, horns, now I actually feel like I'm up there. I could go and put some windows on the sides of these buildings, and now I really feel like I'm running across the rooftops and trying to reach the villain's helicopter before they can escape, right? Right? Super, super cool environment. But, okay, so what I would like to do now is I would like to say, you know what? Whatever this is, okay, whether I'm on a rooftop or whatever, or I'm in a secret underground facility, what I'm not super excited about is how blocky and square all of this looks, okay? Now, normally, if I want to make another piece of the environment, if I want to make a path that goes out to the east here, what can I do? What would be your first idea? Based on what you currently know. What's the play?
Another game object?
Yeah, another game object. You know, and what I would probably do is I would go copy V, drag it over here. Maybe if I want a cool little thin path, I would make it like this, okay? But you know what? What if I wanted to have a path that's a bit more dynamic? It's actually like a triangle shape. So it starts wide over here to connect seamlessly with this chunk, but then it kind of narrows, or maybe it curves a little bit, all right? Maybe it actually goes up. So it starts low, but then it actually climbs up at an angle. How am I going to do that? With a game object, you're like, I don't know. I can't really create a pyramid. A pyramid shape might get us what we want. But if I go in here to 3D objects, I'm like cube, sphere, capsule, cylinder, plane, quad. There's nothing. There's nothing. How do I want to morph this shape. If you look at this shape right here, I just want to change it, okay? I want to be able to kind of come in and kind of massage its corners and get it into the shape that I want for my environment. I want something a bit more dynamic than just a bunch of cubes everywhere and some spheres thrown in for flavor. What am I going to do? Well, I could go into Blender and I could start messing with my shapes, okay? You know, I can actually show you that right now. If you take EECS298, this is probably what you would actually do. Okay, you'd open up Blender and you say, well, I got my cube here and I want this to be a cool path. So I'm just gonna grab these two corners and just kind of bring them in like that. That's a pretty cool shape, right? You can grab these two and just kind of bring it up, okay, or actually down, okay, and connect this and then export this into Unity, right? But if you are not wanting to learn Blender, or if you want to move a bit faster and not leave Unity, there's another thing you can do. Yeah?
I guess with the Blender object,
yeah.
Unity has the inbuilt like colliders and stuff for their boxes.
Yeah.
Does it play well with Blender shapes?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Okay. By the way, like, there's a reason that, let me see here. For those of you who have played the EECS298 demo, like this is made in Unity. Much of this environment is in Blender. Oh, by the way, there are multiple characters now. So you can press C to switch between them. And it even works in multiplayer, I think. So you can see this block-shaped environment, right? So this is just me copying and pasting a block, basically, from Unity. But you see this tree? This was modeled in Blender, and the collisions work more or less perfectly. So you should strongly suspect that there's an easy way to do all this, right? And I'm going to show it to you in just a moment. Let's see here. This is Evan Marcus's character from his childhood notebooks, okay? And he got to model him. This is Prince Random, and he told me, it was adorable, he told me this was like a dream come true, like his character's been brought to life. And what's also amazing is that he made this character in just a few days, okay? Like imagine getting to the point where you can actually create pretty cool characters in just a couple days. And Evan knows a lot about Blender, but he doesn't know that much. He hasn't been working with it that much. He certainly doesn't have 4 months of studying and practicing Blender like you're going to have when you take this course, okay? So anyway, I'm just trying to hype you up a little bit. Enrollment is always my biggest challenge, so I apologize for shilling my courses so much, but I'm definitely going to keep doing it. I gotta. Otherwise, the course gets canceled, and then everyone has a bad ending. So we need a solution here that doesn't involve Blender, because that's a different course, it's a different program, it's a big mess, all right? I want to teach you something called ProBuilder. ProBuilder is a super powerful in-editor modeling program, okay? It's kind of like a mini version of Blender that is inside of Unity itself, okay? And so what I'm going to show you here is how to get it. First, you're going to go to Window, Package Manager. You're going to switch from In Project to Unity Registry. In Project shows you what packages you currently have. Unity Registry shows you which ones you could have, okay? This is like going to the store. You're going to search ProBuilder, okay? And when you're going to click on it, you'll see a little install button, okay? You click Install, it installs. And then up here, you'll have a little tools panel, okay? And a bunch of different little options in here. Don't worry about these too much. What's gonna happen is you're also gonna have a bunch of little icons on the top left and bottom left of your screen, okay? And when you click on an object like this, you're gonna start to get some options. The first thing we're gonna do is we're going to go up to Tools, ProBuilder, Object, and then ProBuilderize. This prepares the object to be edited, like as if you're in Blender. Click on it, click Yes. Now, what's going to happen here is we can go to this little editing tool, okay? Click on that little orange icon. Now, instead of moving the entire object around like we were previously, currently we're just altering the entire object. Now we're in edit mode. You see here how these little corners have started to light up. Now the vertices that comprise our object can be altered in any way that we want, okay? So look at that. I just altered the object, its corner, by dragging it around. I can grab the other one, shift click, and then I think, how do I go into scale mode? There we go. Go into scale mode, and I can do the same thing that I just did in Blender, but I can do it without leaving the program, okay? I can go raise it up. We have our little ramp here, okay? That's kind of cool, right? And so now I've got this really cool piece of the environment that I can run along and do stuff with. So let's see how that looks. And you can imagine what's going to happen right now, okay? All right, I'm going to roll around, secret snail, okay? This is actually going to be our entranceway from the cave, okay? Let's go and go in here and, uh-oh, wait, something's going on. Oh! What happened? What happened? Do you see a problem with what we did? When I click on this object over here, right? The green is the collider for the object, and it matches the shape, the visual shape of the object perfectly. But when I come over here, you can tell that the collider that this object has does not match the visual shape of the object, okay? So what do? Well, the problem here is that we're using a collider that is too simple. Our object now has a visual shape that is dramatically different from its physical shape, and so we got to get a new collider. Box collider just can't model a shape that isn't a box, okay? So we get rid of that collider, and we're going to bring in something called a mesh collider. The mesh collider is a more expensive collider. It has to do more things. It will look at the underlying geometry of your object. It will look at all of its vertices and edges and faces, and it will create a collider of many different triangles, you can see them in here, that fits it perfectly, or at least much better than the box collider or a sphere collider can. Now, what we can do is I can actually run up the shape, and we'll see if that works, okay? Here I go, right on up, and works perfectly, okay? And off, all right? Cool, awesome. What I'd like to do now is I'd actually like to build a cave system, all right? Now, I'm going to need a bit of your patience here because ProBuilder just completely changed their UI, okay? And so I was stumbling through it this morning, and I don't remember where the next part actually is. But we're looking for something called the poly tool, okay? Create poly shape. That's looking really good, okay? I think that might be what we want. But what I'm going to do actually, let's try something basic. I want to create a poly shape, okay? So this poly shape, right, I clicked on that, and now I've got the ability to kind of draw all these points around. You see this right here? Kind of this really unusual shape, and I can connect it like this. I can then scale the object up and down and up and down. Now, I just want to take a look at this. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. This is perfect because all the vertices on the floor are level. It didn't used to do this, so this is a new version of ProBuilder. Looks like it's really good, okay? But I'm actually going to get rid of this. Here's what I'm going to do. I want to draw a shape that kind of has a cave vibe, okay? So let's go ahead and open up. I'm going to give myself some space, and I'm going to go and I'm going to open up my ProBuilder menu again. Let's create a poly shape. And I'm going to create a little entryway here, okay? But then maybe there are these rooms that kind of come off the cave in these, yeah, they're kind of opening up or a little bit, right? Kind of round rooms, okay? And you can kind of navigate this cave a little bit. It's kind of bendy, all right? A little bit bendy, okay? But then there are some more rooms, okay? Like this, kind of cool. Kind of looks like a goose splat, like a Nickelodeon-style goose splat, slime or something like that. Okay, so we got this little cave system, and there's another little door here, or a little opening, okay? And hopefully that's big enough for our snail to kind of fit through. Okay, and then I'm going to create the little entrance here, and there we go. I'm then going to give it kind of a tall little ceiling there, okay? And here is our shape, okay? We just created a really organic shape. We could use this as a platform, but I want to go inside of it, okay? I'm going to line it up here, kind of, like that. I want to go inside of it. But you see, we have this problem, because if I go inside of it, oh, everything looks really weird. I'm inside of the shape right now. This should look like a cave, but it doesn't. So what are we going to do? What can we do here? Well, do you know, if you know a little bit about 3D graphics, okay? If you know a bit about 3D graphics, then you'll know that each of these faces, okay? This object, let me highlight the faces for you, okay? Oh, by the way, this is another important thing, okay? You see this object right here? Earlier, I was in edit mode, and I was in vertex mode, okay? Vertex mode. And all 3D modeling programs will let you jump between manipulating the vertices, the little corners of an object, versus manipulating the edges of an object. Okay, so I can select edges and manipulate them now. Very convenient to do this. Okay, I can raise up and down easily. Okay, or you can go to a face mode. All right, I can click face up here, and now I can go in and I can start manipulating, for instance, how big is this face to create a little cool little pyramid, okay? Or I can shift it around to kind of shear the object, okay, and move it over there. So there's this cool little slope, stylistic, right? Any program is going to let you do this. In Blender, this is really, really clear. We click on an object, go to edit mode, and now, right, we can edit vertices, okay, and drag those around like this, or we can go to the edge selection mode and drag it around like that, or face selection and drag the faces around like this, okay? So very, very fundamental. But each face of a typical 3D model also has a normal. It's called a normal vector, and if you have a surface, the normal is what's coming out of the surface. So the ground here has a normal vector that's pointing up. This table has a normal vector that's pointing up, unless you're looking at the side, which would have a normal vector pointing out. If you look at that wall right there, it has a normal vector that is pointing out in this direction, okay? And these normal vectors determine whether you see the face or whether the face is culled, okay? I believe the normal vector out of this face is coming kind of out of the screen along my cursor here. So the rendering system detects that, hey, if the face, if the normal is pointing toward us roughly, we do render it, but if it's pointing away from us, we do not. So that's why we go inside the object and we can no longer see the faces. This is called backface culling. It's a performance optimization, and sometimes it's annoying. In our case, it's going to be fine, though. Because here's what we're going to do. We're going to click on this object, and we're going to go find somewhere in here, there is a operation, object maybe, called flip object normals. And when I flip these, think about what's going to happen. Currently, if we're outside the object, we can see everything just fine, okay? But when we flip the normals, this is going to look really cool. I just flipped all the normals. Now, what happened? Well, even if I'm outside the object, I can still see inside, okay? And now when I'm inside, I can see everything, right? The normal of this surface, the ceiling is coming down toward me so I can see everything. Same with the floor and all these nice walls. So this is often a really powerful thing to do. So let's do this. I want to get this kind of lined up with my door here, okay? So I can kind of enter the cave and, okay, I think I can probably get through there. One problem is I got this wall. You see this? I got this door, so I might be able to get in, but I can't get out. Let me it's already got a mesh collider on it, so that's great. I need to knock down this door, so I'm going to go into edit mode. I'm in a face selection, click right there, okay? And I can click on this wall, and I think I can just delete, backspace to delete that face. So now I should be able to walk right in and then leave if I want to. So let's go ahead and let's make sure that's the case. And then we're going to take our 5-minute break, okay? Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to enter our cave right here. I'm just going to walk right in and I can leave, okay, just like that. One thing I'll note is that the ceilings look very, very high in this cave. This doesn't really look like a cave for a few reasons. It doesn't have the shape of a cave, so our geometry is messed up. But it also, no cave is going to look like a cave if we've got these white walls with these default developer textures. Okay? And so it looks more like a construction zone than a cave. So when we come back from our 5-minute break, I'm going to show you how we can address these things. And then if we have time at the end of class, I'll introduce you to the topic of juice. Okay? All right. See you soon, everyone. 5 minutes. Okay.
Especially like it's just
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to it. So we've got about 15 or 16 minutes, 17. I'll try and show you as much as I can here, and then we'll move on to the topic of juice. This is actually, however, the things we're doing do contribute some to juice, okay? This is also theming, which we'll talk about big time on Project 3, okay? But you see this right here. This environment just doesn't feel like a cave. One of the best things you can do when you're trying to create good 3D art is you want to always have a reference, okay? And you want to remind yourself, what are the things that make a cave a cave? Well, caves, right, are kind of organically shaped, okay, and they tend to not be nearly as stiff, okay, in their geometry. These walls are so perfectly straight, the floor is so perfectly flat along with the ceiling, that this could only really have been made by some sort of intelligent species, right? A human, or this looks kind of alien to me. And so one of the first things we can do is we can get in here, we can start messing with these shapes. I'm going to turn off the lighting so I can see a bit better. And so I'm going to go into edit mode over here, and I'm going to go in particular to edge edit mode, okay? So I click edges. Now I can select all the edges. I can move them around if I want to, all that good stuff. But you know, actually what I'm going to do first, I'm going to grab that ceiling up there, and I'm going to lower the ceiling, okay? Because that ceiling is just, I think, a bit too tall for a cave, all right? I want this cave to be a little bit more cramped, a little bit more rotund, okay, a little bit rounder. As we can see, most caves do tend to have a roundness to them. And I want to take these walls and I want to kind of knock them down a bit, all right? Well, what we can do, we need to take these walls and we need to crease them, okay? These edges are too straight. We need to put vertices along the center of these edges, all of them. And one easy way to do this, one very fast way to do this, is what's called an edge loop. And this is a kind of universal 3D modeling concept. We're going to create a loop, a circle, an edge that goes all the way around and intersects these edges, okay? You know how to do that? Alt U. That's another universal thing about modeling programs, is that they have a ton of hotkeys, okay? And so it can be a bit of a pain to work with them, but now you see we have all this wonderful geometry that we can mess around with. I could go and I could mess with these vertices, each one by one, and I'm going to do some of that. What I'm going to do first, though, is actually just alter them all. I'm going to go into scale mode. I'm just going to make them all a little bit wider. Okay, and I can also then move them around like this, okay? Look at this. I feel like the cave is now dancing when I do this, right? So that's kind of fun. Okay, but I can make them a bit wider, and then I can move them around a little bit and see if that's good. I want it a little bit wider still, okay? A little bit wider still, and then I want to kind of center them like that. Is that looking kind of good? It's looking okay. Okay, that's looking all right. All right, but you can see here now we've got this cave that actually feels a little bit more like a cave. Certain parts of it have these vertices. They're a little bit crazy here. They're just kind of hanging out. So I'm going to move these back. But you want some of that jaggedness in a cave structure, right? Some sharp corners on occasion, but overall just kind of a rotund, okay? A little bit there. I like that quite a lot, okay? It's kind of bending in. I'll leave that there. What else do we have here? Okay, like this around the corner, that looks nice. Maybe I'll have it kind of go back in, all right, like that, a little bit more, okay? So you can really get a sense that, like, I think there's the technical side of doing this, right? Do you know the tools that can help you get what you want? But there's another part of this that's very important, and that is deciding what you want, okay? If we're making a cave, well, what do I want in a good cave, all right? That is where you start to really feel like an artist and not just someone who knows a few cool tools, okay? So anyway, so that's looking kind of cool. Now, these ceilings I'm not super excited about, okay? You see how flat the floor is? The ceiling is not super relevant because we got this top-down camera perspective, right? But this floor is so straight, it's just breaking my immersion in two. So one question is, we've got this big plane, how can we chop it up? Because right now, if you look, there are no vertices that we can really alter. You know, we can alter these vertices, actually, to get a little bit of height adjustment, right? So we're moving some vertices up. So now I've got this nice little slope. Actually, I do like this a lot. But I want to show you something that's pretty powerful, okay? I want to show you something called the cut tool, okay? In Blender, this is called the knife tool, and it's super fun. I just press K, and now I can put a cool little shape into our object like this, right? And it's just kind of fun, and I can just finish it right there, and then I can just grab the shape, and whoop, look at that. We got this cool block M, right? But the knife tool is basically the cut tool is ProBuilder's version of this, okay? So I can actually come in here, and I can say, what if I want to connect, let me see here. Can I go like this? I want to put a vertex in the middle, and I want to connect to there, okay? And then maybe connect it back, okay? I've just made this triangle in my floor, and now I have a lot of agency to create ledges if I want to. I can bring this down and move it. I can create a pool in here. Oh, you know it'd be super cool? I'm going to put a pool of water, okay? I'm going to put a pool of water into my cave. You know how I'm going to do it? I'm just going to grab a cube. I'm going to bring it in here, okay? I'm going to get rid of its box collider because I think I want to be able to walk through this. I'm going to make it a little bit wider, okay, like that. Ooh, look at that. Isn't that awesome? Oh my goodness. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to create a little material. Okay, let's just call this blue. And I got caps lock on. Okay, let's create a little bit of water here, a little like kind of light blue. Oh, is that awesome or what? And I'm going to be able to go through it. Okay, so now we've got this environment. Let me just put a little bit more effort in here and make this just a little bit more dynamic of an environment. We got slopes going up, we're going down, we're going up, we're going down. Okay, maybe the cave floor is a little bit tilted through a big section in here. Sometimes that's just how it goes with caves. Okay, there's some bumps in here, it's a bit uneven, all right. That's looking good. Here it's way too straight, so it's not convincing at all that this is a cave. Okay, maybe it straightens out a tiny bit, but we'll lift these so we got a bit of an upslope. And then in here, maybe, okay, like that, so it's a bit uneven again. This is way more cave-like, isn't it? Way more. And the ceiling is a bit of a problem still. I could go and put some more effort into that, or I could just ignore it. So let's play test it. We did way too much. You know how you're not supposed to write too much code before you play test? Well, here, you shouldn't do too much modeling before you play test either. So I'm going in, and look at how jagged this is. Oh, and there's a cool pool of water in here. I could just go, right? Little splash, maybe. Sound effect when I touch the cube. Turn into a trigger. I can come in here. A cool little room. Maybe I can put a secret in here or something. Maybe they've been mining. I can just kind of explore this cave dynamically around the corner, okay? Super cool, all right? Very, very fun. But there's a problem still. There's a massive problem. What is our big problem with this cave? What's the problem?
Texture.
The texture, right? The texture is nasty. It's default. And what's more, it's not only default, it's the worst default we could possibly have for our theme. Our theme is dark, dim cave, okay? Not brightly lit, wallpapered, interior mall, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go online and I'm going to find a material, okay? Now, I'm going to go to a website called ambientcg.com. This is a really great place for free public domain materials. And I want a rock, okay? Let's just find a nice rock because caves have a lot of rock going on, right? And so, what's this? I like this one right here, okay? It's kind of dark, right? It's really rough. I'm going to download the 1K version. So it's not a super high-res material, but it's not a super high-res game. So it makes perfect sense. Okay, I'm going to unzip this folder and something is going to happen. It's going to surprise you, okay? I'm going to get a folder here, but when I look in this folder, I find something unexpected. I find a bunch of images, not just one. Do you know what a material is? A material is more than just color, okay? I want to point something out to you, okay? Pay attention to this. This right here is a whiteboard. Its color is white. This wall, its color is also white. But they don't look the same, do they? That table in front of you is white, just like the whiteboard, just like the wall. They have the same colors. But the way that they interact with the light is different, okay? This whiteboard is very reflective and shiny and smooth. So the way that it reflects light kind of changes how you perceive this object. Sometimes it even seems to change the kind of white, the kind of color it has, okay? Over here on the wall, it's much more rough. If you touch it, you can really get a feel for the graininess, right? It scatters light, okay? Whereas the whiteboard kind of reflects it. So you see, when we're dealing with materials, what is an object made out of? We're not just dealing with what color is the thing. We're also dealing with a bunch of data, okay? About how reflective is the object, how rough is it, how metallic is it? And I want to point out, for many materials, certain parts of the object are very smooth, while other parts of the object are tinted differently, and their reflection is different, okay? And so, the way that we create a material is through not one image, but many, okay? Many textures. So that's why we end up with a folder instead of just one image, okay? I'm going to drag this in right here. And what we need to do is we need to create a material, okay? I'm going to go into this rock folder. We find a bunch of different materials here, okay? Some of them look very strange. Others of them look like the rock, okay? Look at this. That is the rock, okay? But if we want it to look really good, we need to use these other ones as well. I'm going to right-click to create a material. And you're going to see here, let's call this rock material. You're going to see I get this ball here. It looks like some plaster or something. This does not look very good. But you can see this material has many different slots that we can put things into and mess with them. Okay, I'm going to put this rock texture, I'm going to drag it over into the albedo. This is kind of a synonym for color, albedo, color, okay? You can see that it looks better, but it doesn't look like rock, okay? Why doesn't it look like this? I want this, right? I want this, but instead I've got this. It's super shiny. What's up with that? Well, there are more things that we're missing here, okay? This is the color texture, but there's also an ambient occlusion texture. What is that? Well, we have an occlusion slot, so let's just drag that right in and watch how it changes, okay? It barely changed. Sometimes it's super subtle, sometimes it's not, okay? Well, let's try these other maps. I'm going to lock this so I don't lose it. We've got a displacement map. So this is a height, okay? I'm going to drag this in, okay? And now I can see the height of the object is kind of morphing a little bit when I turn it up, okay? Not a huge difference, but this one is going to be for sure, okay? Normal, normal map. This determines how light reflects off of it. Look at that. Did you see the change? I'll show you again. Super smooth. Now I'm going to drag it in to the normal map. Oh my goodness. That looks 1,000 times better, right? So this normal map right here looks really weird. Do you know why it looks like this? This is encoding one 3D vector, a vector 3 for every pixel. Is that crazy or what? You know how it's doing it? RGB, XYZ. Within the color data of a pixel, you can actually encode, you can embed, you can hide in there a vector 3. What does that vector 3 say? Well, that's the vector 3 that tells us how we should scatter light, okay? And so when we add this to the material, suddenly we go from this really boringly lit, like marble, okay, to this crazy, like rough-looking shape. Notice on the sides, the shape is completely smooth all the way around. It just looks different because light is now being affected, okay? Anyway, so this is really good stuff, and I'm happy with this material. How do we put it onto this object? Well, what we can do is we can go to the material editor. Let's go to Tools, Pro Builder, Editors. Let's go to Open Material Editor. And I'm going to drag this new material into a slot here. Now what I can do is I can kind of go into my edit mode here. I'm going to go start clicking faces. I go to face mode. And I'm going to take this face. I'm going to click, boom, just like that. Okay? And look at that. We've now put that material onto our face here, okay? We can do, we can start putting this everywhere. I can start highlighting all these faces. So I can put certain materials on certain faces and others onto others, okay? Let's go ahead and, where'd my material editor go? Did it hide on me? Window, no. Tools, Pro Builder, Editors, Material Editor. Let's go ahead and just paste, and we got this material going on, okay? So let's come in here, get a bunch more of our little walls and surfaces. This is a little bit tedious. And anyone who really knows what they're doing is looking at this right now and going, oh, Austin barely knows what he's doing. Because one of the big differences here is that a pro modeler can do this super fast using hotkey knowledge and stuff like that, okay? These are really hard to click for some reason. I'm not sure why. Okay. Oh yeah, I can just click and drag like this. Get a good result. Just apply the material to everything. Oh my goodness. Hopefully I did not get the water. Yes, that's right. I did not get the water. Okay. So hit all this stuff. Come in here. Hit a couple more. Okay. It's going much faster now. Okay, now, why does my material editor keep disappearing on me? Okay, here we go. Apply it all. So this is what you can do if you want to get your material onto as many things as possible. Now, what I want to do is you see how like this material looks like it's repeating too often. It looks like wallpaper you'd find in a house. So I'm going to go to my material, and I'm going to go to tiling, and I can adjust my tiling to make it more or less granular. Okay. Ooh, that looks way better, doesn't it? Wow. Okay, so now it's not super bunched up. It's just much, much nicer. Okay, this kind of breaks the immersion, doesn't it? I am, however, running low on time. So you know what? We're gonna introduce juice next week, I think. Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to introduce juice now, and then we're going to do one final change next week. What we're going to do is we're going to pull in a snail from the asset store. We're going to use that snail. I'll show you how to import models and stuff like that. That'll be good toward the end of the week, but I do want to introduce juice now, okay? Let's take a little bit more time to make this look a little bit nicer. So let's go in, let's grab face mode. I really want to grab these, very annoying, okay? I want to grab those. Okay, make sure I did not grab anything else. I want to grab this one. Okay, snuck by me. Anything else I missed? Good. Okay, let's go and open up the material editor, tools, editors, material editor, apply that material. And now things should look pretty darn good as I fly around in here. Okay. Oh, I missed these. Oh, goodness. Okay. Boom, 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 apply. Okay. Boom, boom, apply. Okay, awesome. Cool. We should probably do a test run, shouldn't we? So let's go in and run our game. And here we go. Is this cool or what? This is so much cooler than it used to be. And that shift in environment does another thing. It really gives you a good sense of progression. I was in this facility and now I'm in a cool cave. Or going the other direction, maybe Secret Snail infiltrates the cave and there's just nothing. It feels very rugged. You're out in nature. But as you go through the cave, it starts to feel more industrial. Maybe you see an interesting thing in the environment, right? It starts to feel more human. The walls get straighter up and down. Suddenly we breach out into this secret facility, right? The mood is completely changed. The geometry of our environment feels different, okay? This stuff really does matter a ton. It really, really, really does, okay? And on Monday, we're going to come back and I'm going to show you how to introduce a special character model to your game as well. Clearly, this character was made just using Unity, but on Monday, after our playtesting is done, I'm going to show you how to introduce this snail from Sketchfab, okay? Download it, import it. Importing 3D models, kind of a pain, all right? But can be super, super impactful if you do it and do it well. So does anyone have any final questions on what we did here? You don't need to do this, but for Project 3 and even for your Project 2, if you want to spice things up, give your game more personality, theming, charm, then ProBuilder is a powerful way to do it, especially if you don't know Blender, okay? So any questions or comments? Okay. So what I want to do is I want to introduce you to the concept of juice. Okay, this is the final thing we're going to do today. We've got about 16 minutes remaining, and this is a 15-minute video, so fantastic. Okay, the topic of juice is an extremely important game design concept, and ironically, it might be one of the only standardized, formalized concepts in all of game development. Okay. Juice is an actual formal term. If you use it with game designers in your discussions, they will know what you are talking about, okay? And the term juice is portable between even academic programs. So you can go talk to MSU students, and they'll know very much what you're talking about here. Juice is the idea that we want to get as much output from as little input as possible. Well, that's strange. What does that mean? Another way of saying that is that we want our game's state to be extremely visible and obvious at all times, especially when it changes. Okay? So, when your Legend of Zelda character or Samus in Metroid takes damage, we don't just move on. No, we put the effort in to make sure that Samus is going to flash red so that you know that she took damage. You need to do that because whether or not you took damage is huge in your decision making. Maybe you will avoid a fight or go collect some items, some health items if you did take damage, okay? So I want to show you this video. It's a classic video going into what juice is, why it matters, and how it can completely transform your game. From a playability perspective and guidance perspective, but also from a personality and charm perspective as well. Let's take a watch. You're going to want to pay attention to this one.
You are too kind. I'm not sure last time everyone was standing up. So. Yeah, we'll get to them eventually. So we're going to talk about how to make your game juicy. And I guess it's kind of like whims. It's this abstract notion of something that you need to have in your game. And I'm going to start by telling you what juice exactly is. In video games, juicy things are things that wobble, squirt, bounce around, or make little cute noises. It's sort of a catch-all phrase for things that make the game feel good to interact with. The term juicy comes from this classic gamma tons of cascading action response for minimal user input. And use is typically visual or auditory, but it doesn't really need to be. Emily Shorts mentions on her blog that interactive fiction, which is a text-based game, they can't really do wiggles and squirts much, but they have their own kind of juice, the fun and sort of unexpected responses you get when you try something in the game that you're not supposed to do. And that's pretty much what juice is about. It's about maximum output for minimum input.
So why juiciness? I recently had the pleasure of giving feedback on some student games, and what I noticed was that almost all of them lacked juiciness. And that made me realize how important juiciness actually is to a game. Because game design is quite hard, and it's impossible to give broad statements that are true for everything. But adding juiciness to your game makes your game better 100% of the time, guaranteed. So, in order to demo a bunch of small effects that you can add to your game to make your game more juicier, we decided to make a game, which is a breakout clone. And we're going to show you a bunch of very simple, juicy effects you can add to your game to make it better. First of all, we're going to add color, because it's hard to tell who are the good guys and bad guys if everything is brown. So yes, so much better already. And next order of business.
I'm sorry, I forgot. Keep going.
Tweeting, which is very related to juiciness.
Yes. And switch. So, tweening. Tweening is one of these mysterious words that we tend to throw around without thinking about too much about what it means. At least I do. Another word for it is this easing as well. And basically, the word tween comes from in-betweening. So when you're doing animation, you want to draw a box, maybe you draw this pose, and you draw the next one, and you draw. So you leave some space in between, and you get the keyframes of the animation, the important bits. Then you, in between the animation, you draw in the missing parts. So that's where the word tweening comes from. It's just a lazy way to say in between. We don't really do keyframes as such when we're doing this type of game programming that we are doing here in this demo. But basically, tweening in the world of computers means that you provide a start point, say 1, and you provide an end point, say 11, and you say, I want it to take this long and use this equation to get there. And you can use this for a bunch of properties. And you can't always use the tweening engine. There are times when it's not appropriate, or you're lazy, or whatever, but you can't always use this baby right here. Does this make sense to you at all?
This is alert.
Yeah? Good. Basically, we're moving x, whatever value that is, 10% of the way we need to go. So first it will go fast, and then as it approaches its target, it will slow down. Looks very nice, very easy to implement, like this, have it run every frame, you're good. But we're going to do some proper tweening in this game. And a good place to do tweening is when these blocks appear on the screen, we want to make it look juicy and nice. So we're going to start by tweening their position. That's my assistant here will show you. So as he resets the level, they sort of fall in instead. And now we can use these mystical equations here. So instead of using the linear one, which is just falling in, we can use this sort of slow down type equation. Look at it. It's slowing down slightly. We can do better though. We can go slightly past our target using a different equation. Look at that. Very luxurious. And there's also crazy equations. You're laughing. This is serious stuff. And the bouncing equation. This is a crazy one. Look at it. Amazing. And we can also tween other properties. That not just position. We can tween rotation and we can tween scaling. Let's try that. See what happens. Very nice. You see, it's getting somewhere. And the best thing we can do is add a little bit of delay, a random delay to everything. Looks like this. Look at that. Same thing. We're not changing the game at all.
So unlike easing and tweening, squeezing and stretching is an actual programming term that you can't Google, but this is a term we came up with for a bunch of different effects you can add to your game to make things way better. These are some of these are done with tweening and easing, or most of these are done with tweening and easing. So we're going to help with making the paddle respond a bit. So instead of, this isn't actually using any easing, it's using the offset of the mouse pointer and where the paddle is to figure out a scale of X and Y. It's a very simple effect to implement. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some extra scaling to the ball. So when the ball hits something, it's going to scale up to bigger and then it's going to go smaller with an easing equation. And that looks kind of nice. It adds a bit of feel to the ball hitting things. Then we're going to make the ball rotate. So it's going to rotate in the direction that it's going. We're going to animate this rotation for a very small subtle effect that's almost impossible to see. We're going to make also the ball stretch a bit. This is stretching based on velocity. This looks way better if you have gravity, but it's okay with this. It's also better if it's actually a ball-shaped thing. We're going to animate the stretching now, so whenever the ball hits something, it's going to wobble for a bit. And for the last thing, we're going to add color to the ball, so the ball will go white every time it hits something, and then it's going to scale back to its normal. So it already feels way better to bounce the ball around. But this isn't juicy enough, so we're going to make add some tweening to all of the blocks when something is hit. So when the ball hits something, there's a small scaling effect on all the blocks, which is done with tweening. It's a very simple effect to add. And the last thing we're going to add bouncy lines. So whenever the ball hits the lines are going to bounce a bit. And making things feel so much nicer to play around with. Next is probably one of the most important parts that you can add. Like, this is the most cost-effective thing you can add to a game to make it more juicier, which is sound. Unfortunately, extremely often ignored part of game development. This is a simple demo we ripped off from the Steve Swink book, Game Feel. So there are two ball circles that pass through each other, and this is without sound. We're going to add sound to this, and you can see, hopefully, the difference. So you can see now they seem to bounce off from each other instead of passing through. And this is the same animation with the only exception of adding a sound effect to it. So now we're going to add some sound effects to our game. Yes, remove everything else, enable sound effects. So we're going to first bounce off the ball, so there's going to be a small sound when. So much better. Add a sound for blocks. Sound effects, thanks to Nicholas.
Is he here? Were you here? Yeah. Oh, come on, give me more than one. Give me points.
Add the paddle effect. And lastly, very importantly, music by Nicholas. Actually, even though the game doesn't have anything else except sound effects, now it feels almost like a real game instead of a crappy demo. Next up, Martin's going to talk about one of his favorite topics, like particles.
There's this saying, like you can't ever have too many particles in your game. And it's, again, you can't make broad sweeping statements, but it's 100% true. Let's add some particles. We're going to start with the classic smoke. The ball hits something, we put a little puff of smoke in there. And you can use whatever particle engine you can find. It's kind of a trap for programmers, these particle engines, because you get stuck making one and you're making it the very best one and then you never use it. But it was fun making, so don't do that. Just find something that's already made, use it. You get
do it, it's like the simplest thing you can program. It's so much fun.
Don't listen to him. So we got smoke in the game, like smoke coming off the ball. We can do better, we want to make something with the blocks. So we want to make them sort of disappear. This isn't technically a particle effect, this is tween. But if you can manage to hit a block, you can see it slowly going away. We can do better, way better. So let's make them fall away when you hit them. Look at that, it's just falling off the screen. We can do even better, let's add some more stuff. Let's make the ball sort of push the block. Look at that. And why not make it spin while we're at it? And now you can tell that it's hard to see which, like the block falling off is sort of blending with the other one, so let's make it darker. These are all simple things, like stacking together to make something beautiful. And this next one is not simple, but it's awesome. It's this shatter effect. Look at this. And we put slow motion in the game just to show this. So, look at it now. It's shattering. Yeah, right there. Very complicated, and no one can tell. Again, with the trap for the programmers. So let's add some more particles for the crashing. You can look at that. It's just beautiful. Let's go for the paddle particles as well. See if you can hit the paddle. Yeah. Confetti always works. And there's also this ball trail that we put in the game, which is nice. That we just keep track of where the ball has been, and we draw a line into this position, and it looks very fancy. And now we're going to move on to one of the more powerful effects, and I want you to be careful with this when you try it at home, because it's powerful. So, would you bring out the screen shake, Petrine? Yes. And this really, for effort, this is one of the best ones. So when the ball hits something, we shake everything a little bit. And the ball went from being like a stupid tennis ball to a motherfucking comet or something. And if you crank it up a little bit more, Petri, we can get them, like now it's in freight train mode. Like it might very well just break the screen edge and just keep going. Very, very powerful effect. And with great power comes great personality, Petri.
So this last one is a classic Kyle Gabler trick of making your game juicier. It's not exactly a effect, but it's a thing. You add eyes to anything you have. So we're adding some small eyes to the panel, which is just so little programming effort and art effort. Like the animation is just disabling the eyes for a while, and it looks like it's blinking. We can animate the eyes a little bit more, so we can make it look towards the ball as it's going. It's a nice little thing. We also can add a smile to it. So it's got a little mouth there, and it smiles when it hits something. That's just scaling the Y value of it. If you can get the ball to go further away, you can see it frowns in horror. And for the effort of this, like how much personality it adds, it's insane. You can also make the eyes a bit bigger. The ass, it's so much better with bigger eyes. So that's pretty much all the separate categories we have for effects. So for the last thing, we're going to disable everything and show you the beginning state of this game. So it's a playback alone.
Tons of fun.
Now we're going to enable all the effects. Hopefully.
Are you ready?
Okay, so you can see the impact that Good Juice has. And again, it adds a ton of personality and charm to your game without necessarily changing the gameplay at all. But also it helps the player understand what is the state of my game so that they can make their decisions more effectively and more efficiently. When the ball hits the block and turns white and flashes a different color, that is helping you verify in your brain with multiple senses that an impact occurred, okay? And so you can think of Juice that way, all right? Two different ways, personality and charm and also game state feedback. They're linked together. So on P2 for your gold, okay, next week, you're going to care about Juice. You're going to want to get some of that into your project, but think about what Juice you care about, okay? Because it takes a long time to implement Juice, and get that personality. Next week, we're going to implement it together. I'm going to show you techniques like how to implement a very effective, elegant, reusable screen shake. Okay? And so I hope you look forward to it, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you. Good luck finishing up your P2 Gold Spike. And we'll see you for the first playtest of the semester. Should be a lot of fun on Wednesday. Okay? See you in a couple of days. Bye-bye. Okay, everyone online, I'll see you later, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.